Hello and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Derek Strauss with Gavroshe, and we are partnering with the CDO Magazine and with the MIT CDO IQ and the International Society for Chief Data Officers in a series of interviews. Today, I've got the pleasure of talking with Carol Kim, who is Executive Director at IBM's Global Chief Data Office. Carol, welcome.
Hi, Derek. Hello, everyone. My name is Carol Kim, and I would like to thank CDO Magazine for having me here today. I'm a director at IBM's Global Chief Data Office and a strong believer and practitioner of data-informed decisions. And I get excited by data discovery, data-driven insights, and delivering business value. And I look forward to our discussion today.
Thanks, Carol. That's great. Yeah, anytime someone says they're interested in data and analytics, it's going to be a good discussion. So I look forward to this as well. Now, we've broken this up into three segments. The segments that I'll talk about shortly, but each of them, the overarching theme is business value delivery through enterprise data and analytics. Everyone's talking about business value delivery, but what we wanted to try and do in this series of three is to really focus in and unpack that topic and focus in on three major areas. The first area is going to be data-driven culture. So we'll have a segment that deals with data-driven culture. Then we'll go into operationalizing data governance because the proof of the pudding is actually in getting it going and making it happen and operationalizing it. And then thirdly, we'll talk about the ROI, how do you measure the value? If we're saying that we want to deliver value, how do we measure, how do we know that we've done it? So those are the three segments. And, we encourage all of our listeners to make sure that you catch all three segments because then you'll have the full picture around this very important topic of business value delivery through enterprise data and analytics. So without further ado, let's jump into the first topic then. First topic being data-driven culture. And by way of introduction, let me just say a couple words here just to warm up the topic. As I said, everyone's talking about it, but at the back of our minds, a lot of us remember the very sage saying, which is culture eats strategy for breakfast. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. So you can come up with great strategies, but when it comes down to getting the culture to actually change and turning the company into a data-driven company, it's often very messy and very difficult to make lasting changes to an organization's culture. There are many approaches to addressing organizational culture, of course. There's library books and studies and research that has been done ad infinitum. But the starting point for all of these typically is to define the end game and to understand the meaning of the end goal. Carol, what have you found, in your customer base and in your experience over time? What does this whole thing mean, being data-driven?
Without data, you're just another person with an opinion, Derek. So when a company employs a data-driven approach, it means it's making strategic decisions using data analysis and interpretation rather than just intuition and observation alone. Another term widely used alongside data-driven is data-informed and/or data-inspired. And for most companies, data is dispersed across so many departments and geographies. And the data is siloed, it isn't analyzed, it's not accessible, it's not trusted, and therefore data-driven insights aren't widely available, which leads to inefficiencies, missed growth opportunities, and regulatory exposure. So the value of being a data-driven enterprise or a business is that it can help predict what will happen before it does, and lets you get ahead of your competition. By understanding what our customers want and need, a business can proactively provide it before anyone else even knows it exists. And happy customers are more likely to stick around, and data-driven businesses know how to make their customers happy. They do this by understanding what makes the customers tick by using the information that we give them. And data can help identify unhappy customers as well before they leave so that the businesses can take steps to remedy the situation before it's too late. And since these data-driven decisions are based on evidence and not guesswork, the business can be more confident in their choices, which leads to better products, better services, which in turn attracts more customers. Mm-hmm. So with that said, I really strongly believe in the appropriate and informed use of data. So said differently, you need to use the right data and information for the right purpose. So data is valuable when its definition and context are clearly understood. So a simple example is when a nurse inputs 150 and 95 into a computer for the doctor. Those numbers are only helpful because my doctor knows, one, that's my blood pressure reading, and two, because she had a discussion with me about my diet, my exercise, my lifestyle, my stress level, family history, genetics, etc. So that data is helpful because the definition is clear and my doctor has the right contextual information to interpret it.
Right, that's a great example. That's a really, it brings it home. You know, there's absolutely many examples, I'm sure, that most companies can immediately start thinking about where they're stymied by the lack of data, by the lack of data at the right time. You know, a lot of companies say, "Hey, we've got data all over the place, but man, it's just not actionable. It's not available complete. It's not complete at the right time that we need it." And you know, the flip side of the coin is you get a lot of companies that say, "Yeah, our data is pretty good," you know, but then you start profiling the data and showing them how bad it is, and everyone's okay. We probably need to do something about this. And so that kind of leads to, yes, you know, certainly we can see the need for, you know, data and analytics and being a data-driven company, but what kind of steps do companies have to take in order to become fully data-driven?
One of the biggest obstacles in creating a data-driven company, it isn't technical, it's cultural. Mm-hmm. It's simple to describe to someone how to inject data into a decision-making process, but it's really hard to make this a normal daily activity for them. It requires a shift in mindset. So some suggestions that I have to help create and sustain a culture with data at the core is, one, to have the data-driven culture start at the top. You need to have your top managers set expectations that decisions need to be anchored in data, and they need to lead by example. And one way to do that is to choose the metrics with really good care. Leaders can have powerful effect on behavior by artfully choosing what to measure and what metrics they expect their employees to use. A second suggestion could be to quantify uncertainty. Absolute certainty is impossible. So require your teams to be explicit and quantitative about their levels of uncertainty. Is the data reliable? Are there too few examples for a reliable model? And once the analysts can gain a deeper understanding of their models, they can evaluate uncertainty. And the emphasis of understanding this uncertainty allows the organization to run more experiments. And all of this is based on having good, clean data. Your solution can only be as good as how good your data is. If you feed inaccurate or insufficient data into your AI, it will deliver misleading results that will undermine your initiative's integrity and also reliability. And you know, the analytics help employees, not just clients. So it's easy to forget that the role of data fluency can make employees happier. So if the idea of learning a new skill is only to handle data better, you'll only have a few employees excited. But if you tell them it will directly benefit them by saving their time, helping them avoid rework, giving them access to frequently needed information, then this chore, it becomes a choice and the employees are on board. And one way to measure your progress in the journey to become fully data-driven is when you're able to connect the right people with the right data at the right time and eliminate all the technology complexities around data movement, transformation, and integration. And that's one way to measure it.
Very good, very good. Yeah, I mean, it struck me as you were talking about it that a lot of companies are talking these days about data literacy and trying to get internally within the organization, at all levels of the organization, data literacy to happen. Now, what I've seen, and I'm sure you've seen it as well, is that there are many different interpretations of what is data literacy. Just like we said in our opening comments about what does it mean to be data driven, many interpretations about that as well. What are some of your thoughts based on your observations and stuff you've been involved in around data literacy? What does it mean, and what's its contribution to this whole topic?
I think data literacy is at the core of a team's success when they want to do data and AI driven initiatives. And as being part of the Global Chief Data Office, that is one of our essential goals, is to be a change agent and to be an evangelist for data literacy and data democratization.
It's a mouthful.
And to build a data first culture involves talking about it a lot, Derek. And it's crucial, not just to our employees in our organization, but to the public at large. The public needs to understand what can be done with data and how to use it. And we really encourage people to think about what data and questions are needed to make your fact-based decisions and how to make this information available. And in order to do that, we want to foster capabilities to read, work, analyze, and argue with data. And I believe enabling people to ask the right questions is more important than getting the right answers. So we in the Global Chief Data Office support the fail fast, but learn through that failure mentality. And I tell my teams, if you don't succeed at first, we'll call it version 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so important. That whole culture of fail fast, fail first, fail and learn is so much part of the learning organization kind of culture that one wants to try and strive for. But of course, there are many companies that aren't there yet in terms of being a learning organization, and it's in some cases the journey to becoming fully data driven as an organization is more challenging than in others. What have you seen as being kind of some of the big kind of obstacles to becoming data driven in your experience?
I think a lot of the datas are still siloed, and often the data building blocks and organizations have in place, they remain disconnected. So the challenge of unifying all this disparate data sources, regardless of whether it sits in a data lake or a catalog or an application or a warehouse, to bring them together to one unified view to help leaders and decision makers find, understand, and utilize data, I think it still remains one of the biggest challenges. So we at IBM address this with new approaches like data fabric as a strategy and an architectural approach to simplify data access across our organization. This helps us connect siloed data without having the business copy or move it, and it helps us improve our data governance and privacy. It provides for multi-cloud data integration, and it addresses the business need for a more trustworthy AI and machine learning.
Thank you for that, and I want to bring it to a close, this first segment. As I mentioned in the introduction, please check back with us because there are 2 segments to come, and you don't want to miss them. So, Carol, thank you for your opening comments here, and I'll see you in the next segment.
Thank you, Derek.